Iran's retaliatory strikes, though, continue not only in Israel, but at other neighbors in the Gulf. This as a third U.S. Navy aircraft carrier strike group is now expected to join in the fight against Iran. In moments, I will be speaking live with Israeli President Isaac Herzog. But first, let's go live to Tel Aviv, where Nate Foy is on the ground with the very latest. Hi, Nate.
Hey, Aisha. Yeah, Iran continues firing on its neighbors today, even after President Masoud Pezeshkian promised that they would. And Pezeshkian is one of the three people on Iran's interim leadership council. Iran's military seemingly not getting that message or not on the same page in the past hour, targeting an airbase in Saudi Arabia and hitting a tower in Dubai with an Iranian drone. Take a look. This isn't the first time that Dubai has been attacked. Even just today, the Dubai International Airport got hit with an Iranian drone early this morning. And shortly before that, a drone damaged an oil facility in southern Iraq. Iran also claims it hit an oil tanker in the Strait of Hormuz today. Meanwhile, Israel is launching more strikes in Beirut. So far this weekend, they've hit 170 Hezbollah military sites. Sirens are also blaring in northern Israel this hour. Meanwhile, the U.S. bombing campaign continues in Tehran. President Trump promised a big wave of attacks today, as so far the U.S. has struck 3,000 targets in Iran during the first week of Operation Epic Fury. The U.S. has also sunk at least 42 ships as the U.S. continues degrading Iran's offensive and defensive capabilities. However, those capabilities still exist, as we have seen in Tel Aviv today. Iran has fired ballistic missiles here and at central Israel several times. We've seen intercept missiles go off behind us, and Israel's air defense has been effective. We'll send it back to you, Aisha.
Okay, Nate Foy reporting live for us. Nate, thank you. For more on the ongoing conflict with Iran, let's bring in now the president of Israel, Isaac Herzog. President Herzog, thank you so much for being on the program with us today.
Thank you, Aisha. It's a pleasure.
I want to start with what the president has said about what he needs from Iran. He has continuously said he wants a unconditional surrender. He won't accept anything else. What does that look like to you, sir?
It looks like a major sea change in world history, meaning finally somebody has taken head on this ongoing, repeated pain and agony that has emanated from the Middle East and says enough is enough. And I think the president's decisions throughout have been bold, have been clear-minded, have been unique and clearly historical in the fact that he is leading a different path for the Middle East. I heard today the leader, Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed, the leader of the United Arab Emirates. He spoke beautifully. And he is one of a kind, like all other leaders there, who've been bombarded by Iranians. And the issue is that there's a coalition of nations in the Middle East who says enough is enough. We're fed up. You guys out there in Tehran, you can't do this anymore. You cannot spread terror. You cannot spread havoc. You cannot say America is the big Satan, Israel is the little Satan. You cannot build terror cells all over the world. That's over. And that's why we're working in an incredible partnership between President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu, who both have taken outstanding decisions, together now with all the leaders in the region, just to bring a different path for the future of the world, in fact.
President, you know, regime changes are very difficult through just air power, and it appears that the Iranian regime is expecting ground troops at some point, U.S. and Israeli. I want to play a soundbite here from the foreign minister of Iran talking about what they expect. Listen.
President Trump has not ruled out boots on the ground in Iran. Are you afraid of a U.S. invasion in your country?
No, we are waiting for them.
You are waiting for the U.S. military to invade, the ground troops?
Yes, because we are confident that we can confront them, and that would be a big disaster for them.
President Herzog, are you expecting to send any Israeli troops into Iran?
No, and I don't think anybody's expecting to see American troops in Iran as well. I think part of the comments of the Iranian foreign minister is, in order to impact American public opinion and scare American public opinion. You've got to understand, Aisha, first and foremost, we are both in this unique partnership are delineating the power of the Iranian military, revolutionary guards, and the extreme cruelty of their regime. We are weakening them, and when you are weakening them, they will be confronted with major questions, including from their public. We know that there's havoc in that regime. We know that there's huge debates, arguments, and total disarray in that leadership. We know it. And that's why there's a process that will take place which will bring their demise and end. It doesn't require troops on the ground for that matter. It requires constant pressure because there's a given moment where everybody says, stop, it's over. And that's how it will happen.
Can I ask you about the Kurds? There's reporting out there that the Kurds, the fighters, might be sent into Iran to start a ground offensive. The White House has pushed back on any reporting that suggests that there is some sort of a plan to use the Kurds. But wouldn't that help both Israeli and U.S. troops? Would you be supportive of using the Kurdish fighters?
One has to understand that the Kurds have their own aspirations and needs and objectives. The Kurds are spread all over the Middle East. I would be very cautious in saying who's joining, who's not joining. Iran is a big nation. It's 90 million. It has various groups within it. One thing we know for sure, for years, the Iranian people are fed up. And you saw them go into the streets just 2 months ago, and you saw them brutally butchered by their regime. Between 32 to 50,000 people who've been butchered just like that. And I'm telling you, it is obvious that with the pressure from the outside and the pressure from the inside, there will be change. We're not condescending, we're not over-optimistic, we're very realistic. We're showing a coalition which is unbelievable. This U.S. military and Israeli military cooperation is unprecedented. It works like the coalition in World War II even. I mean, it's really impressive under the leadership of President Trump. And I must say, I commend also Prime Minister Netanyahu for the incredible decisions that he has taken together with President Trump. Both of them are doing incredible work to change the future of the world and bring us a better future. And that means preventing nuclear armament for Iran. That means stop spreading terror and havoc all over the region. And that means also change in the region, meaning Lebanon, and you've seen Syria, hopefully in other places.
Right. I can't let you go without asking you, President, about the pressure campaign from our president, President Trump, for you to pardon Benjamin Netanyahu. He told Axios this week. He said, every day I talk to Bibi about the war, I want him to focus on the war and not the, I won't say the curse word, court case. I want the only pressure on Bibi to be the fighting against Iran. Will you be pardoning the Prime Minister, Netanyahu?
So let's put things on record and in perspective. First of all, during the war, there are no proceedings at all, so it's off the charts and off the table, and the Prime Minister is solely focused on the war. Number two, just to explain to you viewers, I'm the head of state. I don't have executive powers. It's similar to what you see in Europe and other countries, and I have the pardoning power. I'm of course obliged and sworn in to Israeli law, just like you have American Constitution for the President of the United States. So we have the Israeli Constitution for the President of Israel. So I said,
would you be supportive of a pardon, sir?
Wait a minute, wait. I said that I will consider everything seriously, but I'm obliged under the process and under Israeli law to await opinions that must be given to me by the relevant authorities. And that is why, of course, everything's on the table, but it has to be done according to Israeli law. I respect President Trump tremendously, honestly. and I take the brunt with a lot of affection and respect to him, because he's the leader of the free world who's changing history. But on the merits of a case, which is an internal case in Israel, I am obliged, I'm sworn in, and I'm the president of the State of Israel.
Okay. President Herzog, thank you very much for joining us from Israel. We very much appreciate your time. Great to see you.
Thank you very much.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.